On New Year's Eve, our 6th wedding anniversary, Sophia suddenly shoved her cell phone into my hand. On the screen was Dylan's social media profile. Finally, I can openly cherish you, after all these years of hiding. Her eyes sparkled. Dylan says he'll make me happy every day from now on. I said nothing, my fingers tightening around the lab results ID just received, crumpled in my pocket. They want to be happy. I doubt they'll get the chance. I went to the town radio, and paid 200 yuan to have them broadcast the entire story of the two of them for a whole night. The social media profile was deleted instantly. Sophia called me, furious. Ethan, how could you be so pathetic? He's so jealous you had to broadcast it to the whole town. I was just messing with Dylan. Did you have to make such a scene? At the same time, Dylan was posting intimate photos of him and Sophia from the at West Park, one after another, then pretending to accidentally send them, adding a fake drive. Ethan, please don't mind. My heart was like a dry well. Not a drop of feeling could be drawn from it anymore. As soon as winter was over, Sophia returned to work at school. On a few days after news, I was woken by the sound of her slamming the door. Ethan, you deadbeat, get out here. It's the new season, and all I did was spend one night at her parents' house. Why are you making such a fuss? I got up and opened the door, glancing at the table covered with holiday leftovers. Without a word, I went to the restroom. Before this, even if I was full to bursting, I would have cleaned the table, just in case Sophia found me messy. But last night, when I saw the intimate photos of Dylan and Sophia on his social media profile, I finally understood everything. I smoked a cigarette, crunched sunflower seeds, and ate and drank to my heart's content. No longer did I have to carefully control my weight, or wait anxiously at home for her return. This feeling was truly comfortable. Are you deaf? I am talking to you. Sophia yelled. I haphazardly wiped my face and said, if you don't like it, clean it yourself. Otherwise, just deal with it. Sophia's face turned ashen. She stood rooted to the spot, her face full of disbelief. What surprised me was that she actually rolled up her sleeves and started clearing the leftovers from the table. Her face fell even further when she saw that I had emptied the homemade fruit wine we had brewed together when we got married. You fool, drinking so much, aren't you afraid of harming your health? I couldn't be bothered to respond. We had originally agreed to drink this homemade fruit wine when the baby was a month old. Now that there was no baby, I drank it all. It was sour on the tongue, bitter and spicy as it went down. Seeing my silence, she thought I was drowning his sorrows in drink and quickly offered sweetly, when I just came back, I made some chicken soup at her parents' house. Drink some first, then I'll make you a bowl of noodle soup. Millimeters HMM, I mumbled in reply. That's Sophia for you, knock you down, then offer a treat, like training a dog. Shed mastered that trick. I didn't expose her, I just poured the chicken soup straight into the trash. Just before Sophia returned, Dylan deliberately tagged me on WeChat, posting a status update, with my loving wife's care. I am not afraid of drinking too much. She even made me chicken soup at dawn. I'll accept this, love. In the accompanying picture, Dylan was embracing a woman in an apron, unmistakably Sophia. We'd been married 7 or 8 years, and I never even let Sophia cook, fearing she'd get tired. Yet, in the end, she was willing to serve another man. Ha, how ironic. Just as I finished pouring out the chicken soup, Sophia saw me. You deadbeat. How dare you waste the chicken soup I made early this morning? She shrieked. She still thought I valued her favors, and would be compliant and submissive as before. I sneered. How did you know I was drinking? The people from Oakwood must have told you. Did I not know her little tricks? I just chose not to expose them before. Sophia's face instantly turned pale. She muttered awkwardly, I just bought some chicken soup ingredients casually, when I was selling vegetables at the village early this morning. You ungrateful man, how can you be so picky? Ha! This was my wife. Outside, chickens and dogs were crowing in unison, and smoke rose from the Davis chimney, but my mouth felt bitter. Sophia mumbled a couple of guilt-ridden complaints, then turned to knead dough. This time, however, she was clearly distracted, her movements increasingly perfunctory. I heard the landline phone ring, and Sophia went next door to answer it. I seized the chance to move closer to the door, listening to her and Dylan chattering on the phone. Sophia, having a wife like you, I am truly blessed. Sophia's face changed drastically when she returned. and she slapped me hard across the face twice. "Who told you to eavesdrop on my call? Don't you know you should keep your distance?" I couldn't dodge in time, stumbled over the threshold, and my head hit the corner of the cabinet with a bang, instantly gushing blood. I wiped a streak of blood from my forehead and sneered, "Aren't you two good friends? What's the harm in me, your husband, listening?" Sophia was scared stiff and quickly found some Yunnan to apply to my wound. As she dressed it, she lectured me, "Are you stupid? Why didn't you dodge? You can't even get past a threshold that big. Are you trying to deliberately scare me? How childish can you be?" I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. If it weren't for my old injury flared up, how could I have stumbled over a mere threshold? Sophia fumbled with the bandaging, but the bleeding wouldn't stop. She just found a towel and pressed it hard, insisting I eat the steaming handmade noodles first before going to the hospital. I was in no mood to eat noodles. I pushed her away, intending to leave, but I lost my footing, and knocked over a bowl of scalding hot tea she had just brought, splashing water everywhere and making Sophia yelp in pain. She furiously pushed me to the ground, yelling, "Ethan, are you sick? I just washed my hair, and now you've made a mess of it again. Mr. Davis is coming over later. What will he think if he sees me like this?" I was dizzy from the fall, my vision blurring. I coldly said, "Whether you go to the hospital or not is up to you, but I am definitely going." Sophia hesitated for a moment, but finally got on her scooter, and took me to the Riverwood. I sat on the back of the scooter, a cool breeze dispersing the foul smell wafting from the pigsty. Wasn't the front seat uncomfortable? "Always picky," Sophia grumbled. I didn't want to argue with her. I just said flatly, "I don't sit where it's not appropriate." Sophia snorted, offered no further explanation, and kicked off, sending the scooter surging forward. I smiled bitterly to myself. I must have been blind to fall for someone like her back then. After the scooter jolted for a bit, Sophia stammered, "My parents want us to visit Oakwood. What do you think?" I knew she was afraid I'd tell her parents about her and Dylan, and then she'd get a good scolding. But my mind was made up. This life was unbearable. Why should I care about those bothersome things anymore? I nodded perfunctorily, closed my eyes, feigning sleep, and couldn't be bothered to engage. A deathly silence fell in the scooter. No one spoke. The exhaust, the earthy smell, the scent of the fields, all mixed together, making my stomach churn. Yet, somehow, I suddenly felt that this tranquility wasn't bad. Perhaps it was the only peace I had enjoyed in all these years. At the Riverwood, Sophia hastily handed me over to the duty nurse, then rushed off to the acupuncture and physical therapy room. Cradling her scalded hand, I lay alone on a hospital bed in the emergency, covered in blood, my face pale, lips bluish. The doctor was startled and repeatedly asked if I had family with me. My head was swimming, and I subconsciously shook it. In my heart, Sophia was no longer my family. The doctor treated my wounds, and I lay in the infusion for over 2 hours. But Sophia didn't return. I let out a self-deprecating sneer. Just as I was about to get up, my cell phone rang in my pocket. It was Eleanor. Eleanor asked me all sorts of questions on the phone. I gave a few perfunctory answers, saying I'd be back soon. But then I heard her say they were butchering a hog, and wanted Sophia and me to try some fresh pork. As soon as I hung up, the town radio started broadcasting gossip about Sophia and Dylan, saying they were inseparable at the Riverwood, making others envious. My head buzzed, and anger flared. Ignoring my bleeding head, I staggered in the direction of Oakwood. As soon as I left the Riverwood entrance, stars danced before my eyes, the world spun, and my legs gave out. I collapsed to my knees with a thud, kicking up a cloud of dust. From too much blood loss, and not eating all day, my hands and feet were icy cold, and I couldn't even stand. Fortunately, Drive Miller was passing by. Seeing my state, he quickly helped me into the infusion, and put me on an IV drip. I had barely lain down when I heard voices from the hallway. Looking closely, it was indeed Sophia and Dylan. They were all over each other, completely unaware that I was lying right next door. Sophia chided Dylan sweetly, "You know, you're old enough, but you're still like a big kid. Disobedient, and now your stomach hurts." Dylan chuckled, "Sweetheart, the ham of a soup you made was so fragrant. I drank 3 bowls of it despite my stomachache." Sophia playfully scolded him, "Is such a sweet talker. Drink less from now on. Just tell me what you want to eat, and I'll make sure is satisfied. It's a deal. Whoever backs out is a puppy." The two of them walked into the room, playfully bickering. Their intimacy surpassed even the way Sophia and I were when I was pursuing her, lying on the hospital bed. Listening to the waves of laughter from next door, my stomach churned. I remembered how I wanted to watch the News Eve show with Sophia years ago, but she found me childish and only cared about chatting with her friends on WeChat. Ever since we got married, I never let Sophia do a day's work, fearing she'd get tired, but to my surprise, in the end, she was willing to serve another man, treating me with indifference. I sighed, feeling a lump in my throat. I had thought I was Sophia's whole world, but it turned out I had simply raised a stranger. I forced myself to stand, leaning against the wall as I shuffled toward the riverward exit, when I heard someone call out behind me, "Ethan, here too, what a coincidence." Dylan approached with a smile, Sophia clinging to his arm, looking as if she wanted to melt into him. "Slow down, don't twist your ankle." The two caught up with me before could even speak. Her face was filled with impatience. "Ethan, are you done yet? You actually stalking me? Has our marriage lost its foundation of trust? I told you to wait in the infusion, but you just had to run around everywhere. Aren't you afraid something will happen?" Sophia lectured me self-righteously, as if she were the one who had suffered a great injustice, expecting me to apologize. She faced me with a hostile glare, spewing harsh words. Not a hint of guilt on her face, only disgust. She easily, even in front of me, she could insist I was making a mountain out of a molehill without batting an eye. As her husband, I had become an outsider, utterly superfluous. I just wanted to find a place to sit. Stars dancing before my eyes, my legs weak, but suddenly came over and grabbed my arm. "Ethan, my friend, let me help you." His overly eager expression made my stomach turn. I subconsciously flung my arm, and Dylan fell backward onto the ground, not even having time to yelp. Sophia immediately reacted like a lioness whose tail had been stepped on, lunging forward to push me, shielding Dylan. "Ethan, what are you doing? Dylan was kindly helping you. How can you hit him?" I was so angry I couldn't speak. In my condition, I couldn't even stand steadily. How could I possibly hit anyone? It was utterly ridiculous. The world spun, stars danced before my eyes. I had barely regained some strength, and now it was all gone again. My vision blurred, my ears buzzed, and my whole body felt like it was being pricked by needles. Having just lost a lot of blood, my stomach burned as if on fire. I needed to catch my breath. Just as I struggled to get up, Sophia pushed me down again. "Stay put. You hit someone and now you want to run. Apologize to Dylan, now." She glared at me as if I were her enemy, as if she wanted to force me to kneel before Dylan. I forced myself to endure the dizziness and pain, telling her to let go, that I needed to recover. Instead of letting go, Sophia slammed me onto the ground, yelling, "You're a grown man. Why are you pretending to be a strong man, pretending to be weak? I barely pushed you, and you fell apart like you were broken. Do you think I am blind? Ethan, Ethan, how can you be even worse than a wuss?" Those stars danced before my eyes. The humiliation in my ears was too much to bear. I didn't even touch him. Why should I apologize? Let go, or don't blame me for what I do. Hearing this, Sophia immediately slapped me hard across the face without another word. "What, you're going to turn on me? Do you dare hit me? Do you believe I'll tear your mouth apart?" I gritted my teeth, enduring the burning pain, and said defiantly, "Of course I wouldn't dare, but I can't promise I won't expose your scandalous affair with Dylan." Sophia's eyes turned crimson with rage, and she lunged at my face, ready to scratch me. But I couldn't hold on any longer and retched all over her. To my surprise, instead of cursing me, she actually helped me catch my breath while softening her tone. "Why go through all this trouble? Come on, I'll take you to the doctor." I felt utterly disgusted, and ignored her completely, stumbling off to the washroom to clean myself up, but followed me in. "Let's just drop it, we're not kids anymore. Stop being so childish, okay? It's embarrassing. I was wrong just now. If you hadn't provoked me, I wouldn't have acted that way. Let's go see a doctor." "All right." My stomach churned with nausea. I pushed her away, swatting her like a fly. "Stay away from me." Looking at her hypocritical face again, I truly saw through her completely. Sophia froze for a moment. Then, like a lit firecracker, she burst into a barrage of accusations. "Ethan, you really don't know what's good for you. I've humbled myself, and is still pushing your luck. Do you think you're still a young punk? You can't even control your temper. You're in your 20s or 30s, worse than a young punk. You can't even do basic farm work. Nothing but an embarrassment. We can't live like this anymore. Let's just get a divorce. This wasn't the first time Sophia had used divorce as a threat. Whenever things didn't go her way, this was her ultimate weapon. Before, I always begged her to stay, pleading for another chance. This time, however, I was unusually calm, and agreed instantly. Fine, let's divorce. Sophia initially brightened, thinking I was backing down. She muttered, "At least you have some conscience." Before she finished, I repeated, "I said fine, let's get a divorce." She looked as if she'd been struck by lightning, her eyes wide, stammering, Ethan, what did you say?" Divorce." I pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared long ago, laid them flat on the table, didn't even use a pen, just put my fingerprint on them, and then pushed them toward her. I said, "We're getting a divorce. I've signed the agreement, you should sign it too." Sophia stared at me in disbelief, her voice distorted. "Are you trying to scare me? Or do you think I still care about you?" I couldn't be bothered to explain to her. I just stared at her steadily, my expression calm, without a hint of panic. Seeing this, Dylan immediately ran over, buzzing around Sophia like a fly drawn to blood. "Sophia, look at his behavior. He's biting the hand that feeds you. Ungrateful, in my opinion. He's just being overbearing and trying to deliberately provoke you." Compared to the polite and refined Dylan, I appeared to be a naive bumpkin, not only childish and laughable but also making him and Sophia look like a perfect match. Hearing's words, Sophia instantly flared up in anger. "Ethan, do you see? This is what a real man is like. Dylan is not only thoughtful and considerate, but also generous and proper. He handles things much more maturely than you. If you insist on going against me, I'll see it through to the end. But for what happened today, you must apologize to Dylan." I found it both infuriating and laughable. Before, when I pleaded with Sophia not to leave me, she would constantly threaten me with divorce. Now that I agreed, she was unhappy. A wave of nausea washed over me. I turned and went to the Riverwood backyard to dry heave. This time, I couldn't even bring up stomach acid. When I returned, Sophia had already left with Dylan. I endured my discomfort and went back to the doctor for a follow-up. The doctor told me I had severe stomach ulcers, and that if things continued this way, I might start bleeding. I lay in the Riverwood for half a month, and not a single person came to visit me. Then one day, Sophia showed up and yelled at me, "Ethan, how long are you going to be unreasonable? You're not even answering my MOMS calls. You deliberately want her to know about this, don't you? If my mom finds out, see how you'll handle it. So what if you had an IV drip for a few days? Are you trying to extort me with this?" I didn't bother with pleasantries and directly told her I wanted a divorce. Sophia's face was a mixture of shock and disbelief. It took her a while to recover. Then she said through gritted teeth, "Today is my MOMS birthday banquet. We'll discuss the divorce another day." I thought that Eleanor had always treated me well, so I agreed to return to Oakwood to give her a heads up and make things easier. To my surprise, upon returning to Oakwood, I saw Dylan's name on the birthday banquet guest list. Sophia glared at me, demanding, "Are you intentionally trying to get back at me? You know my mom doesn't like Dylan, yet you insisted on inviting him. What's your agenda?" I was speechless. What's done in the dark will eventually come to light. If you were afraid of exposure, why did you announce it to the whole town, over the loudspeaker in the first place? Besides, would I be so bored as to invite a rival to my own home? Just as I was speaking, Eleanor pulled me aside with a smile. "Ethan, you're finally here. Your mom was hoping you'd come to wish me a happy birthday." Sophia's face changed drastically when she heard this. It seemed she also realized that inviting Dylan was probably Eleanor's doing. As for the purpose, what else could it be? Naturally, it was to make Dylan look foolish in public, yet remained completely oblivious, proudly presenting his gift. "Mom, look, this is my family heirloom gemstone, brought especially for you. Do you like it?" Eleanor's eyes lit up, unable to hide her joy, but she deliberately looked at me, seeking my opinion. Anger flared in my heart, because that jade pendant was clearly the one I had painstakingly borrowed money to buy as a gift for Eleanor. I couldn't believe Dylan had swooped in and taken credit. I simply couldn't stomach this. I couldn't take it anymore. But as the saying goes, if you want to destroy someone, you must first elevate them. Just insulting him wouldn't be enough. He needed to be praised to the point of self-destruction. I took a sip of my homemade fruit wine, and stepped forward to examine the gemstone closely. Well now, could this possibly be Professor's amber jade? I wondered if Dylan had done his homework. I would test him first. Dylan nodded smugly, looking completely confident. I knew it. Sophia had probably arranged everything for him to put on a show. His appearance was deceptive. True character lies within, in terms of looks. Dylan had well-defined features, but his skin was dark, and his hands were thick with calluses. Then there was his shifty-eyed gaze, full of greed, cunning, and hypocrisy. He was simply relying on his family's wealth, and used to being thuggish in Oakwood. Here he was, eagerly trying to climb the social ladder. Eleanor had studied calligraphy and painting in her youth, and she immediately saw that there was something wrong with the jade. Her face instantly darkened. I added fuel to the fire. Dylan, I am surprised you have such good connections, and no experts in the field. Why don't you introduce me? Dylan immediately took the bait and spouted lies. I don't know anything else besides people. Just the other day, I was drinking with director from the county. Someday I'll definitely invite Ethan to join us. Under my prompting, Dylan gradually got carried away. Little did he know, Professor had passed away 2 years ago, and I had acquired this jade pendant through his younger brother. I glanced at Sophia and saw her face was ashen. She furtively tugged at Dylan's sleeve, signaling him to say less. Hearing mention drinking, some of the older villagers couldn't help but chuckle. By now, everyone could see that this kid lies easily. Dylan himself sensed something was off and looked awkwardly at Sophia. Eleanor couldn't listen anymore. She slammed her hand on the table and roared, "Enough! Dylan, you don't even know who the owner of this jade is. Did you steal it?" The entire room erupted in an uproar, with villagers whispering and pointing fingers. Dylan instantly looked utterly defeated, wishing he could crawl into a hole. I then asked Dylan, "Do you know the value of this jade?" Dylan hesitated for a moment, then awkwardly said, "This, 20,000. I looked around, deliberately addressing the villagers present. "Everyone, tell me, how much is this jade worth?" Everyone began to discuss it, one after another. 20,000. He must be dreaming. With his limited knowledge, knowing even a little would be a lot. This kid usually brags a lot. His father is the village's rich man. He just relies on his family's wealth. I leaned close to Eleanor and whispered a number. Eleanor was startled and exclaimed sharply, 200,000. Dylan was immediately dumbfounded, kicking himself with regret, wishing he had claimed the jade earlier. I took out the certificate I had prepared beforehand, and explained the jade's origin to everyone. Eleanor became even more convinced that Dylan had stolen the jade. How could she let her daughter marry a thief? She called for Uncle, the village's public security director, and ordered, "Tied him up. This thief needs a lesson today." Without a word, Uncle picked up a rope and walked towards Dylan. Dylan's legs went weak with fright. He nearly wet himself, repeatedly pleading, "Uncle, I really don't know anything. Please, let me go." Sophia also panicked, falling to her knees with a thud and pleading, embracing Eleanor's legs, "Mom, I gave him the jade. Don't blame Dylan. He didn't know anything. Please, let him go." Dylan nodded frantically, agreeing repeatedly. Right. Sophia gave him the jade. It has nothing to do with me." Eleanor stared at Sophia suspiciously. "You gave it to him." Sophia wiped away a tear and stubbornly lifted her head. "Ethan's things are mine. I can give them to whoever I want. You forced me to marry him back then. Did you ever ask for my opinion? Ethan is just a distant relative's child that our family provided for. Are we supposed to package me up and give me to him too?" Eleanor was so angry that she raised her hand and slapped Sophia. "I shouldn't have spoiled you back then, you ungrateful wretch. If it weren't for your father's sake, would you have even married Ethan? It's all my fault for spoiling you rotten. Get back home and kneel on pebbles. Don't you dare leave without my permission." Sophia couldn't withstand Eleanor's fury and had to meekly follow Uncle home to be punished. Dylan was also thoroughly scolded, and wanted to disappear instantly to avoid further reprimand. The celebratory noises faded, and guests gradually began to depart. Eleanor sighed, gently taking my hand, and comforting me softly. "Sweetheart, you must be well. Don't let those people bully you. You've been wronged all these years." My eyes welled up, unsure what to say. In village, marriage was never truly one's own choice. There was no room for romantic sentiments. Before I could even bring up the divorce, Eleanor put her arm around my shoulders, and led me back inside to rest. I knew in my heart that she genuinely cared for me, but and I, in the end, would not grow old together. Back home, Sophia at him with kisses. I pushed her away, wiping the saliva marks from my face. Sophia was relentless, tearing open her collar, her face flushed. She was probably drugged. Eleanor wanted Sophia to get pregnant quickly so she would settle down and live her life with me, but I knew clearly that even if she did get pregnant, the child might not be mine. Sophia tried to cling to me again, so I just tied her up and threw her onto the bed. In the living, I spread out paper and a pen and began copying the divorce papers and property division terms. I also secretly asked a legal consultant in the city to investigate Sophia's bank deposits. To my surprise, Sophia had long planned for a divorce and had transferred most of her assets. Her combined accounts totaled less than 20,000. I never imagined Sophia would be so wary of me. Once the drug's effects wore off, Sophia angrily stormed out and demanded, "Ethan, hey dear, you tie me up. Marrying you was the biggest mistake." I looked at her coldly, sneering. "What? Do you want me to force myself on her?" Sophia froze for a moment, her face flushed, and stammered, "Why you don't want to?" I couldn't be bothered with her, and simply continued copying the family tree. "Didn't you want to preserve herself for him, for Dylan? Since you two are innocent, how would I dare to get involved?" Sophia was unaccustomed to my coldness. "Dylan and I are just friends, don't talk nonsense." All these years, I had truly been a fool. Even though I knew she and Dylan were having a secret affair, I still foolishly hoped to find her affection for me through physical intimacy. Whenever she came home, I would cling to her, but she became more and more perfunctory. Thinking back, we also had sweet and harmonious times. Back then, you'd put food on my plate, always bring me water when I worked in the fields, and even posted a public love note at the village during holidays. Now, this love was like stagnant water, devoid of life. We only wanted to break the illusion and go our separate ways. Love, in the end, is fragile. It requires the other's participation, the other's giving. But no matter how I tried to show affection, Sophia still went behind my back to other men. All she wanted was my money. Over time, she grew tired of me and wanted to set a trap to scam a marriage. From then on, I resolved to get used to living alone, sitting alone in the yard, staring blankly, facing my inner peace by myself. I no longer waited anxiously for her to come home, no longer longed for intimacy with her. When I threw the divorce papers in front of her, Sophia, ironically, became agitated. "Ethan, are you lost her mind? This is our marriage, you can't just end it like that." I didn't take her bait, just stared at her coldly. After a long time, Sophia sighed, caressing her lower abdomen, her face full of sadness. "Ethan, actually, I am pregnant. The baby is yours." "Really?" I kept a straight face, unmoved. "Whether it's my child or not is still uncertain. Do you take me for a 3-year-old? Sophia's eyes welled up with tears, and she coaxed and cajoled. "Of course it's yours. Let's have the baby and raise them together, okay?" If he worried, "I won't meet Dylan at all during this time. After I have the baby, if you still want a divorce, I'll agree. All the property will be yours. I won't take a single cent. If I forced a divorce now, I might end up at a disadvantage. I might as well play along for a while and see what other tricks she had up her sleeve." Sophia began frantically buying baby supplies. A wooden crib was set up in a corner of the living, adorned with baby clothes. She dragged me into discussions about baby names every day and personally sewed a baby jacket and baby booties for the baby. She even attended a parenting experience exchange meeting organized by the village center, diligently taking notes. She could recite the recipes for liver soup and goji berry dessert by heart. She went down to the fields to do farm work every day, prepared meals, and was incredibly attentive to me, like a newlywed wife. But I knew she was just trying to validate herself through me. One day, she even asked me to name the child. I gave no definite answer, simply continuing with my own tasks. I truly envied those with wives and children, who had a family waiting for them. After a day in the fields, eating a warm meal, holding their child, and being affectionate with their wives, I had imagined countless times a life with Sophia, growing old together, watching our children grow up and start their own families. But now, I saw it clearly. Sophia's efforts weren't for me at all. To prepare for the baby, she resigned from her teaching job and rested at home for more than half a month. But every night, she would sneak up to the hilltop and chit-chat on the phone with Dylan As the saying goes, when trouble hits, everyone looks out for themselves. I focused on my work, and she pursued her desires. Now that I had taken off my rose-tinted glasses, I realized Sophia was utterly unworthy of me. Her childishness was no longer endearing, her fiery temper no longer appealing, and her stubbornness and foolishness made me frustrated by her lack of progress. To be honest, my clinic had been neglected for a while in my efforts to salvage this marriage. Having fought hard these past days, the rural healthcare reform project led by Ethan received provincial commendation, earning praise throughout the entire town. Meanwhile, Eleanor also learned about Dylan's true nature from the village women's representative. He was incredibly deceptive, had several illegitimate children outside, and owed a mountain of gambling debts from the casino. Even so, Sophia was still easily swayed by Dylan's sweet talk. Phrases like destined and overcome difficulties together. In Sophia's eyes, Dylan was nothing less than a tragic hero. At a loss, I couldn't even be bothered to roll his eyes. Just as the saying goes, a sheltered woman wouldn't understand a man's struggles. I finally understood. One day, Sophia came to me crying, complaining that Dylan had lost all his money at the casino and was hiding from her. I gently comforted her. Men, when they are not home, 9 times out of 10, they are messing around outside. Don't take it to heart. Sophia's tears turned to laughter, feeling that I had become more understanding and empathetic towards her. Later, Sophia started coming to me every day like a confidant, chatting and pouring out her heart. There was a distance between us, yet we were intimately close. Of course, I wouldn't get carried away and fall into a trap again. I would just wait for the day she would show her true colors. Soon, my opportunity arrived. The business gala was approaching. Sophia had been a bit uneasy these past few days, hoping Ethan would help her attend the gala. Sophia promised it was just to get a better position at school and wouldn't affect their relationship. Ethan, what do you think I should wear to the gala? You're so well traveled from the Riverwood. Your taste must be better than mine. I didn't look up, continuing to sort patient records, and casually replied, you figure it out yourself. She then asked if I wanted to accompany her. I suggested she wear that simple but dignified formal dress, suitable for her status as a town teacher. She was so delighted she almost bowed to me. Following my suggestion, she happily left the house. I started organizing the Riverwood's documents. Officer, my old friend from the police station, had already found evidence and financial records of her embezzlement of school funds. I would also reclaim all the designer items she had bought for Dylan. Officer also brought me an interesting piece of news. There was a doctor at the county hospital, where Sophia had her prenatal checkups, who was closely connected to Dylan. In other words, Sophia wasn't pregnant at all. Dylan had truly miscalculated with this move. He wanted to drain Sophia of her value before discarding her. By the time Sophia discovered she wasn't pregnant, Dylan would be long gone. Poor her. She had fully immersed herself in the role of an expectant mother, and was a fake expectant father. This farce would eventually have to end. I began preparing the divorce lawsuit, compiling Dylan's actions and secret dealings, and sending them to Eleanor. Given standing and influence in Oakwood, Dylan wouldn't escape this ordeal easily. I changed my cell phone number, and began focusing on the medical reform project. I buried myself in the rural healthcare cause. From a different perspective, I began to re-examine the current state of rural healthcare. I traveled to every Oakwood within the jurisdiction to understand the most basic healthcare needs, while promoting the project. I also met like-minded partners, some of whom were rural doctors, and others were college graduates, who had returned to their hometowns. I can collaborate with others, but I am not afraid to work alone. I no longer dwelled on relationship disputes, focusing solely on improving the health of the villagers. The charm of the countryside, to me, was simply its winding roads, ancient trees, and the genuine warmth of the locals. I felt I had missed out on so much before, but now, despite being busy, I felt fulfilled and at ease. Walking along the country road, golden rice fields stretched out on both sides. Suddenly, someone dragged me into a secluded barn. It turned out to be Dylan's people, seeking revenge. It was a thug Dylan had hired, and he was quite skilled. Dylan's main sources of income had been cut off, and Sophia's money was frozen as well. Eleanor had Sophia confined, and her bank accounts were frozen too. Dylan's schemes had fallen apart, so he had no choice but to come after me. He didn't dare show his face, so he sent this thug to deal with me. I pretended to cooperate, telling her that the important documents were at the inn in the county, and asked her to come with me to retrieve them. She believed me and came with me to the inn. The inn was bustling with people, so she didn't dare openly threaten me. Instead, she subtly wrapped a knife in her clothes, and pressed it against my back. The owner of the inn was one of my patients. Seeing my uneasy expression, she discreetly called Grandpa. Grandpa was on patrol nearby and immediately called the police after receiving the call. That's how I escaped danger unharmed. Dylan's female enforcer was taken away by the police. Under interrogation, she confessed to all of Dylan's illegal activities, and the locations where he had hidden stolen money. It turned out they were a corrupt town syndicate. The father embezzled public funds, while the son made false reports on projects to fraudulently obtain subsidies. After a few days of discreet investigation by the county committee, Dylan was finally caught. The oversight had lacked concrete evidence to bust this corrupt syndicate. Now, thanks to my involvement, it became a blessing in disguise, providing them with a breakthrough. For this, a commendation was even held in town, praising our clinic's contribution to anti-corruption efforts. It's ironic how things turn out in this world. In the end, justice prevailed. Sophia was still desperately pleading with Eleanor to help her get Dylan out. Eleanor threw a stack of ledgers and audio recordings at Sophia's face. All of Dylan's corruption evidence had been unearthed. Those accounts and conversations were sickening to listen to. Dylan's image among the villagers had all been meticulously crafted. Those who harbored fantasies about money and power would always be deceived. The 2 days Dylan was out of contact, he had actually been at the most luxurious hotel in the county. He and a few shady friends were there, squandering public funds and indulging in pleasure. Sophia read a few pages of the ledgers. Feeling so heartbroken she couldn't bear to read on, she knelt on the floor, crying out, "What about our child?" Eleanor, frustrated by her weakness, slapped Sophia. "You're not even pregnant." This was all a charade staged by Dylan. Sophia touched her stomach and collapsed to the floor. How could it be fake? Were my morning sickness and drowsiness all fake too? Eleanor didn't want to deal with this foolish woman anymore. The fake diagnosis from the county hospital, and the testimony of the doctor connected to Dylan, were right there in front of her. I also told Eleanor about being held captive, and she stomped her foot in anger when she heard it. They're rotten to the core. They jail time. Even if Dylan went to prison, he wouldn't fare well. A week later, Sophia started contacting me frantically. She stayed in the staff for 2 days and 2 nights without eating or drinking. Later, she smashed all the teaching materials to pieces when she thought of me. She found no trace of my life in the room. The apartment was desolate. There would be no one there to listen to her complaints about work or let her grumble anymore. Sophia sent me a text message barrage for several days, expressing her apologies. She claimed that our time together had shown her that what she truly needed in her heart was me. I was busy, advancing rural healthcare reform, attending county meetings, and didn't bother to reply. Posters again. Sophia signed her name on every notice at our clinic, and under them, she wrote things like "Wait for me to come back," and "Forgive me." The calls were endless. Even after I blocked her, she'd borrow a colleague's cell phone to keep calling. I answered once and ripped into her, "Are you kidding me? Don't come to the clinic anymore." Sophia pleaded with me not to hang up. "Ethan, you finally picked up. I miss you so much. Which village are you in? Can I come find you? We planned that village together. We promised to build it together. You can't just abandon me like this. Ethan, without you, these past few days, I've had no one to tell my troubles to. Eleanor just keeps yelling at me for being useless and won't let me leave the house. Can you come pick me up and take me back to the clinic? Ethan, I really want to see you again. Can you tell me which village you're in? I'll leave right after I see you. I promise I won't interfere with your work." I interrupted her impatiently. "It's not convenient. Head Emily wouldn't be happy." Sophia paused for a moment, and before she could say anything else, I hung up directly. The signal on the phone, and that mention of Head Emily, stung heart. Our marriage had long been over. Eleanor called me once, out of respect for our past connection. I answered, "Ethan, it's me." "Don't hang up. I know Sophia wasn't worthy of you, and you've been through a lot recently. How have you been managing with all your work? If you get tired, just come back. I've saved a room for you. No need to worry." I thought I had got through it all during this time, but hearing Eleanor ask how I was managing still made my eyes well up. "Eleanor, I am doing fine now. I want a divorce. Can you help me?" Eleanor agreed. So, Eleanor pressured Sophia into signing the divorce papers and providing her fingerprint. Naturally, I didn't lose out on the compensation. I also received a room and a teaching position at the town middle school. However, she lost her mind. Just as Emily and I were preparing for our wedding, she showed up at the clinic, in the pharmacy, She sprayed weed killer at Emily. Fortunately, I reacted quickly, pulling Emily aside. The weed killer splashed onto my arm instead. Immediately, a severe burning sensation flared on my skin. I pushed Sophia to the ground, enduring the pain. The clinic's security camera footage faithfully recorded the scene. Grandpa happened to be there for a visit and immediately helped restrain. Sophia stared at me in disbelief. Ethan, aren't you afraid of being poisoned to death? Is she worth it, this nurse? In her mind, I had always been the easygoing country doctor. Perhaps it was because I had always yielded to her in the past, making her believe I would never resist. I ignored her and took Emily to get our wounds treated. My injuries weren't severe. Fortunately, I had protected Emily. Sophia kept shouting from behind, "Do you even care about me?" Caring means respecting the other person's choices, and being able to embrace their growth. It's not about being unreasonable or condescendingly granting favors. Sophia didn't understand what it meant to care, nor how to be cared for. We had nothing to do with each other anymore. I heard she was suspended pending investigation, and detained for 15 days. After she was released, Eleanor personally picked her up, and continued to keep her in line. To express her apology, Eleanor offered to help our clinic apply for a batch of medical equipment. I heard Sophia was receiving treatment at a mental facility. Some people said she was acting erratically in Oakwood all day. After that, there was no more news of her in Oakwood. I received the National for Excellence in Rural Reform and also became a father.